All right, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. You know what? Today we've got some headlines, and then we're going to get into some divisional round preview stuff. 4 games, so hopefully it'll be a quick episode today. I don't like looking at myself. I got the video recording up right now, and I don't like that very much. So minimize that, and then we're just going to get into this thing. All right. Hopefully we'll keep this either at or slightly below an hour. Knowing me, it'll probably stretch to around an hour and a half because I'll start talking in circles for roughly 15 minutes. I'll get off on some sort of tangent that takes me entirely too long to get through and is only kind of circumstantially related to whatever I'm talking about at that particular moment in time. So, without further ado, let's just get into this thing, shall we? We got some headlines up top before we get into the divisional round preview. Don't have any coffee today. Already had coffee, and I learned from last time. I don't know if y'all could tell at the end of the previous episode, if you even listened that far. If you did, shout out to you. You're a real one, I suppose. Yeah, I was on the verge of an ass disaster last time, and also using the word ass a whole minute 15 in. Beautiful stuff right there. I'm really bad at keeping the curse words out of the first however many minutes of the show. We'll probably never get better, but it is what it is there. Yeah, a second cup of coffee during the episode last time, just not the best idea in the world. So yeah, we got a little orange electrolyte liquid today because they don't sponsor the show. Even though I just flashed the. It's Gatorade. Who fucking cares? No one watches this show. Either way, I thought I was about to get into this show, a whole minute ago. So let's just do it now. Got headlines first and foremost. This is just as of right now. A couple things came down the pipe. This one came down the pipe, I don't know, like an hour after I posted on Tuesday's episode. Saints fired Pete Carmichael. That's the right decision. I brought it up on Twitter if you were following. Tough timing on that one. If I would have just kept recording a little bit longer, it would have been a 2.5 hour long episode. Or if I just, started recording later. I don't know, whatever happens to happen in that circumstance. But either way, Pete Carmichael is out. And with him, the last vestiges of holding on to the Sean Payton era of the offense is officially gone. This was the right decision. This was absolutely the right decision. If any one of you had watched the Saints offense in the past 2 seasons under Dennis Allen, has it been 2 seasons already? My goodness. But yeah, last 2 seasons under Dennis Allen, it's been looking like it's the same general plays as Sean Payton. But Pete Carmichael, there's a reason no one had hired him as a play caller before whenever he was under Sean Payton for, I want to say like close to 15 years. I feel like the entire time that Sean Payton was in New Orleans, Pete Carmichael was his offensive coordinator by name underneath him, but Sean Payton was calling the plays. And, if you're in that position for long enough and no one hires you, that's pretty, that's pretty indicative of how the league kind of thinks of you as far as an offensive-minded offensive play caller. And it seems like I'm just poo-pooing all over Pete Carmichael right now. And I guess I kind of am. I was never a huge believer in him as an offensive coordinator with the Saints for the longest time. So, it is what it is at this point. I probably should have made this move last offseason, quite frankly. But you made the right decision eventually. They're still keeping Dennis Allen for another season. None of the Saints fans are happy about that, but your consolation prize is you don't have to deal with Pete Carmichael's offense again. And for Dennis Allen, you have given yourself some semblance of hope that you'll stick around for a little bit longer. It is not an exaggeration to say the decision on who Dennis Allen hires for offensive coordinator this year will make or break his job. This will decide whether he is fired at the beginning of 2025 after the next season. And I am really interested to see who they hire. I know one name that I've seen floated out there as far as being requested by the Saints thus far is Shane Waldron. I guess current offensive coordinator for Seattle. It's kind of a weird limbo thing that they're in with Pete Carroll no longer being the head coach over there. But obviously a name that is available. A guy that, honestly, if they hire Shane Waldron, I think that's a slam dunk hire, quite frankly. With what he was able to do with Geno Smith over the last 2 years, you look at what the Saints have, it's not all too dissimilar from what the Seattle Seahawks had over the last 2 years that they had Shane Waldron. You got a kind of a middling level, a little bit above average quarterback in Derek Carr. You got receiving talent with Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, Juwan Johnson, solid tight end there as well. Probably afford to fill out the depth a little bit more, but a solid receiving core nonetheless. You got a really solid running back in Alvin Kamara. Offensive line needs some work, but we'll see what Mickey Loomis does in the draft. He's going to have to go hard on the interior of that offensive line in specific. Really, I've been talking for at least a full season now that there needs to be a hard reset on that offensive line for the Saints. But hey, as far as the tools that Shane Waldron would have to work with, I think he could do something a lot better than what Pete Carmichael did. Something that looks a little bit more fluid, a little bit more coherent. That would be a big time hire, but we're going to have to wait and see on who they end up hiring. It is not an exaggeration, though, to say who Dennis Allen hires will make or break his job prospects with the New Orleans Saints going forward. I am looking forward to seeing what that decision is. And no matter what, I'm going to be talking about it with friends, of course. I'm either going to be clowning them because it's a terrible hire, or I am going to be congratulating them because maybe just maybe their offense will be worth a damn. But also, I know they don't like Dennis Allen, so I'll be clowning them that, hey, you're probably going to have Dennis Allen for another year or two, that'd be fun. That'd be fun for me. Either way, I'm going to have a fun time torturing my friends who are Saints fans. So, hey, either way, I'm looking forward to seeing who the Saints end up hiring at their offensive coordinator position. A new era is underway, or about to be underway, with the Saints after totally divorcing themselves from the Sean Payton era, which they probably should have done 2 years ago, certainly before this past season. We'll see what they do. Getting to the college stuff a little bit, and we'll be kind of yo-yoing back and forth. It's a lot of college headlines today because a lot of stuff is happening, especially with all the head coaching changes at Power 5 universities going right now, as dominoes continue to fall from the Nick Saban retirement. I've just got Sean Payton on the brain, but Ross Bjork goes from Texas A&M to Ohio State to be their new AD. I mean, kind of look at the history of his hires at Texas A&M. He was a good fundraiser, but I think you could put a deaf-mute person up there who does not really talk at all and just kind of stares off blankly into space, and they could raise a couple $100 million for the for Texas A&M just because of the foundation that Johnny Manziel built way back in the day. Hired Jimbo Fisher, signed him to quite possibly the worst extension in history of head coaching contracts. No offset language. That's just straight up cold hard cash coming out of the Texas A&M boosters, which they have more money than God, obviously, but a straight up like $75 million hit, whatever the buyout ended up being. I think it was $75 million that it ended up being. Straight out of your pocket and no one else is offsetting that. That's tough. That's absolutely tough. And Ross Bjork was on the forefront of that. Horrified that he would leave for LSU, which in hindsight, maybe he should have just taken the hit and gone with a new guy. Maybe he shouldn't have handed over that god awful contract. And outside of that, I mean, maybe I'm just ignorant on Texas A&M athletics, but what has Ross Bjork done with Texas A&M that warranted him moving up to the Ohio State job? I'm not entirely sure that this is going to be a great hire. It is who Ohio State has decided to go with, though, and we'll just have to wait and see. I'm interested to see what happens if, in fact, they go into Michigan once again and Ryan Day loses. New AD coming in, did not hire Ryan Day. You can read between the lines there, and if Ryan Day is a free agent, that's at the very worst a high-level offensive coordinator for someone, say a Georgia, if Mike Bobo is no longer with Georgia anymore after next season, or any number of possible locations that he could end up in. I'm thinking way down the road there. I'm thinking like a whole year ahead at this point with Ryan Day there. But that'll be interesting. That'll be if there's any struggles in any of the areas of Ohio State. athletically, I'm interested to see what Ross Bjork does. At the very least, it feels like that Ohio State basketball program is going to get a bit of a makeover, so to speak. We'll see if it's a good one or not. This feels a little bit reminiscent of Scott Strickland going from Mississippi State to Florida. And I don't know if you've kept up with the Florida athletic program, specifically the football team, since Scott Strickland went over there. Hasn't gone great. They fired Dan Mullen entirely too early, and now they're in coaching hell at the moment. So have fun. Have fun with that. I'm interested to see how that all works out for Ohio State. Could be good though. We'll see what happens. This is big news actually. This is we're getting into the transfer portal segment of this show. Noah Fifita and star wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan will be staying in Arizona. McMillan, by the way, had 1,400 yards this season. Absolute monster. I believe he either led the Pac-12 or was certainly top 2 or 3 in the Pac-12 in yards. Probably only Roma Dunze would be ahead of him in the race there in the Pac-12 this year. I would assume both of those guys were kind of expected to follow Jedd Fisch over to Washington. Man, he must have just, he must have just lit the house on fire on the way out the door, flipped everyone the bird, because, man, they hate him at Arizona right now. I don't know what the hell he did. Took him from like a 1-win program to 10 wins this last season. I don't know what the hell he did to those people, but my God, do they not like Jedd Fisch on the way out the door. But yeah, this is a huge win for Brent Brennan. One of my favorite head coaching names already. I'm so glad he is at the Power 5 level, so I can just say Brent Brennan over and over again, man. I keep saying Power 5. There's no Power 5 anymore. It's a Power 2 and then the other 2 at this point. Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore, so we'll leave that there for now. But back to the issue at hand. Noah Fifita and Tetairoa McMillan, those were by far the 2 best players on offense, 2 like cornerstone pieces of the program, and you've got them coming back. It's not an exaggeration to say that they just saved their season with those 2 moves right there. If they stay with Arizona, and obviously there is still a late transfer portal window after spring ball, but it looks like right now, if they have both of those guys in the fold, Arizona is still right on track to be a Big 12 contender next year, and that's huge. That is huge for Brent Brennan and the boys over there at Arizona. It is a little bit a minor gut punch to Jedd Fisch at Washington, especially since you're expected to bring some guys with you when you come over from Arizona, and a lot of guys either enter the transfer portal or enter the NFL draft from that Washington team that went to the national title. This feels, coaching change aside here, it feels a lot like TCU from this past season, where they went to the national title game, but lost literally everybody after that. All the pros that were eligible to go to the pros, they went there, and the roster was kind of bereft of the talent that got you to that point. Feels like that's kind of the spot that Jedd Fisch was in, but lest we forget, he brought a 1-win program up to 10 wins over the course of a couple of years with Arizona. So he's no stranger to coming in and building a program. And it feels like he's at a job that he's going to stick to for quite some time. Unless the Alabama job comes open again, or Georgia or Ohio State. Even Ohio State, I don't think Jedd Fisch is going to be much of a candidate for Ohio State, but we'll see on that. Feels like Washington is a job that you stick at for a while, unless one of those marquee jobs comes open and they come calling. That's the main thing there. So I believe unless he absolutely shits all over the bed there in Washington, I think he'll be there for quite some time. He's going to have time to build that thing up. I don't know what he has there, though. Dunze and McMillan and Polk are all going to the draft, I think anyways. I don't know if Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan are. I know Roma Dunze is for sure, because he's probably a top 10 pick. If he drops out of the top 10, it's going to be a steal for somebody, because he's an absolute monster of a receiver. Then again, I also thought that about Quentin Johnston, but a little bit different situation. Roma Dunze is a lot more highly thought of than Quentin Johnston, quite frankly. But, tough for Jedd Fisch to not bring one or both of those guys with it, especially Noah Fifita, a guy that's got 2 years of eligibility at least before he can go to the pros. That is tough to not bring him with him. That's, again, we talked about it on Tuesday. That's kind of what I expected Jedd Fisch to do, is bring Noah Fifita with him. doesn't seem like that's going to be working out that way. Good luck to both involved. Huge win for Arizona, though. Huge win for Brent Brennan in Arizona. I'm going to just shoehorn Brent Brennan in whenever I can, quite frankly, because it is maybe my favorite head coaching name in all of college football right now. Dabo Swinney would be right up there if he wasn't such a weird motherfucker. But, man, Brent Brennan is a fantastic name. Just a fan. It is a tier 1 name in college football right now, and I'm going to say it every chance I get. All right, so... and out to the roster implosion with Alabama right now. They have lost a lot over the last couple days here. I mean a lot. And this is just a couple guys. I'm getting to the 2 top line guys here. First and foremost, freshman All-American, Alabama safety Caleb Downs, who a lot of people would say was one of the best, if not the best safety in the entire country last year as a true freshman, kind of shades of Derek Stingley whenever he was at LSU with that fantastic 2019 team with Joe Burrow and all of them. One of the best safeties in the entire country. He is entering the transfer portal. Massive blow for Alabama, and he is expected to return to his home state and commit to Georgia. I've been telling y'all, we are entering the prime of the Kirby Smart era in college football right now. If he gets Caleb Downs, you may think of that defense from last year. It was still very, very good for Georgia. Not a whole lot of big names, not a whole lot of like top 10 bona fide picks like they had with like the Jalen Carters of the world. Everyone that was on that team, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, all those guys that were with that Georgia team back in the day. This is a bona fide star that's coming through with 2 more years of eligibility. Same thing that is with Noah Fafita. 2 more years of eligibility before he's even eligible to go for the draft. And this is a guy that will leave after his junior year because he's going to be a top 10 pick, almost a shoe-in top 10 pick. I would imagine the only thing that would keep him out of the top 5 is the devaluing of safeties in the NFL. Outside of that, though, he is a bona fide star. He is a pro prospect right now, and he is one of the highest rated players to ever enter the transfer portal. I think he's like top 5 highest rated according to 24/7 Sports right now. Him going to Georgia would be huge, and it would only reinforce what I already think is going to happen next year. I think Georgia is going to walk to the national title would be a strong characterization, but I don't think it's going to be far off from what we're going to see next year. I think they're going to have the number 1 overall pick at quarterback. I think their defense is going to be back to what it was in the previous 2 years when they won national titles in back-to-back seasons. And I think the offense is going to be just as loaded around Carson Beck as it has been the last couple of years. I think Georgia is going to... They're gonna win the national title next year. Mark my words right now, in this ultra-competitive era of college football where the transfer portal has been the great equalizer across the board for major programs, I believe Georgia is about to dominate in a similar fashion to what we saw Alabama do under Nick Saban for the last 15 years or so. But yeah, Caleb Downs, watch that one. It's not official yet, but he is very widely expected by people that are very... in the know, have a lot of intimate knowledge with this sort of thing, that he is expected to go to Georgia. Watch that one. Anything could happen. I've seen a couple players that were committed to Ole Miss, for instance, flip their commitments elsewhere because of various factors. If you believe the Mississippi State crowd, it's because the checks were bouncing from the NIL. I have no idea, so we'll see what happens. Well, we'll see what happens here, but it looks like Caleb Downs is going to be a Georgia Bulldog. Another highly touted Alabama freshman offensive tackle, Caden Proctor, is in the portal. He was like the number 6 overall recruit in the last recruiting class. Caleb Downs, I believe, was a top 10 recruit as well in the last recruiting class. Caden Proctor, giant of a man, a massive man, just a really big guy in the transfer portal. I think probably someone that's going to have to slim up a little bit, probably quicken the feet just a tad, but started as a true freshman on the Alabama offensive line this past year and played well down the stretch. I mean, outside of the playoff game where Jesse Minter had that entire offense in a pretzel, he played very well down the stretch. Had a really good game against Georgia as well. It looks like he is going to be... it looks like he is going to be committing to Iowa. That's, again, not official, but Alabama and Iowa were the only two teams that were really considered as options for Caden Proctor out of high school. Caden Proctor's from Des Moines, Iowa. Shout out to my birth city. So going back to Iowa with a giant pedigree of, developing talent. They don't get a whole lot of 5-stars there at Iowa. They just develop talent, and they've got, they're tight end no question about it. They've got, more notable pro tight ends than just about any other school in the country, and they don't really recruit at that high level that you see from an Alabama and Ohio State, Georgia. And I think Caden Proctor coming into college, if you heard some of the quotes from him, he really, he chose Alabama because he thought it would be the best one to prepare him for the next level. Iowa's not far behind, and they have a lot more stability there with Kirk Ferentz right now, and a much more of a pedigree of offensive linemen and tight ends. Well, maybe not much more, but it's yet to be seen what Kalen DeBoer does at Alabama. We've already seen a long track record of what Kirk Ferentz does at Iowa, so that makes a lot of sense. I think Caden Proctor probably ends up at Iowa, and that's really not me saying it. That's kind of the experts' prediction at this very moment. So, yeah, Caden Proctor probably going to Iowa in my estimation. This is a tough start for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, though. Already lost Isaiah Bond, lost a 4-star tight end, Nyblack, I think his name is. Lost a bunch of starters right now. Across the defense, the offense, they have been absolutely gutted with talent thus far. That being said, it has brought the unending joy of seeing Alabama fans fully realize what this transfer portal era of the college football truly means. You've seen more of Alabama fans that just 2 years ago were just ultra excited about, oh my goodness, it's the offseason. Let's see what players we can poach out of the portal from these poor, unsuspecting, just poverty programs across the country. They weren't poverty programs. They were probably 10-win teams, but either their coach left or, in their minds, in the kids' minds, they outplayed what this program is so they can move up in the world, get a little NIL money, go to an Alabama or a Georgia, play for Nick Saban or Kirby Smart. They were so excited for those players coming in, and now that the tables have turned, boy, have you seen Alabama fans left and right saying something's got to change in college football. This isn't fair. We got 30 players in the portal. They're all leaving. What's going on, man? This is egregious. This has never happened before in college football. It happens every single year, Cletus. Every single year, you've got teams that are just bereft of talent. Mississippi State this past offseason, we had a bad head coaching hire with Zach Arnett. We have literally, just about everyone on the defense decommit, go into the transfer portal and go elsewhere. Some of them started off going to Ole Miss, and then DeCamerion Richardson decided, no, I'm going to go into the NFL draft. Take that for what you will. It's happened to a couple guys with the Ole Miss here over the last week or so, but I digress on that front. But this is nothing new. It's just Alabama fans have finally figured out what this transfer portal era of college football truly means, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see them suffer because they haven't suffered their entire lives. A lot like when Brady left the New England Patriots, and all of us NFL fans were just rubbing our hands together, salivating like the sicko graphic for the Sickos Committee mascot. It's just yes. We're just watching them suffer, and it feels really, really good. The Schadenfreude is just coursing through my veins right now, and I love it. I love it so much. That being said, I know how this shit works, and it's not like Alabama is the first, major player to feel like something has to change. Like the undercurrents of this has been happening probably for the past couple years or so from the very top, from the NCAA is kind of de minimis at the end of this. We'll see that happening here in the next couple years with the NCAA will kind of be just pushed to the side as far as their relevance here. That they have relevance in non-revenue sports. They no longer have any relevance in college football or really college basketball for that matter. They have no business being involved there because one of those A's in NCAA does stand for amateur. These kids aren't amateurs anymore, and they will be treated as such here, for better or for worse, here in the coming years. Mark my words on that one. We're going to be seeing a salary structure and some form of collective bargaining here, really in the next couple of years. I would be willing to bet money on that, quite frankly. But places like Alabama, it's one thing when, Mississippi State fires a head coach and a bunch of their players enter the transfer portal. It's even one thing when Florida has a bunch of players, Texas A&M for that matter, they have players enter the portal. When a marquee brand like Alabama, a marquee school that has been at the top of the sport for, well over a decade at this point, starts saying, hey, this is not fair, something needs to change, it's wheels tend to move a little faster whenever those marquee. It'd be the same thing if it happened with Georgia, with Ohio State at this point. Wheels tend to move a little bit faster when the marquee brands start saying what the other 99% of college football and college sports are saying as well, that some things are just unfair. So do I think it's fair that we're being completely ignored, the rest of college football, until the big boys start complaining? No, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm gonna enjoy the Alabama suffering while we have it, and you know what? It's probably gonna spur some change in college football, which is good. Do I wish they would listen to us little guys a little bit more? Yes, but I also understand reality. So any avenue that we can get to change, I'm all for it, quite frankly. I'm all for it. But yeah, Alabama might be kind of a tough year one. I still think Kalen DeBoer probably puts together enough pieces for a 9-10 win season. Probably still good enough to get you to the playoff, quite frankly, in this current model. But who the hell knows with these automatic qualifying bids? We're gonna have 2 automatic bids from probably G5 schools, which if this past season, if you were paying attention, that would have been Liberty and SMU. So we're going to have some legitimate stolen bid situations here. So maybe, just assuming that none of those G5 teams are going to rank within the top 12, that's 2 stolen bids right there. So basically you have to be in the top 10 at the end of the season in order to get a playoff bid in this new format, which is a joke, an absolute joke. But I'm going to have to try and digress on that as much as possible going forward, because no one wants to hear old man yelling at cloud going forward. Just embrace reality. It is what it is. And the reality is, unless you're in the top 10 and you're in a Power 5, I don't think Alabama's going to win the SEC next year. I think Georgia is probably going to walk to an SEC title this next season. You're going to have to be in the top 10 if you want to go to the college football playoff and not have an automatic bid. So that'll be an uphill battle, quite frankly. You still got Jalen Milroe in place, though. I don't know what they're going to do with offensive line. I don't know what they're going to do with receiver. They have been absolutely gutted throughout this transfer portal. The transition away from Saban. So we'll see. I believe in Kalen DeBoer, though. This might be a tough first year. I still think the recruiting is going to be at a high level, and I think they're going to do well in the transfer portal going forward. I think even better, actually, with offensive players, given what Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer just did with that Washington team. So wait and see mode right now. It's a tough start for him. Keeping it moving here. 4-star edge transfer from Tennessee, Tyler Barron, flipped his commitment from Ole Miss to Louisville. I'll take what I can get as an Ole Miss hater / State fan right now. And this is kind of what I was referring to as you're seeing a couple of these guys right now flip their commitments away from Ole Miss just because, I don't know, if we're hearing just abject silence and at one point they were committed to Ole Miss and now they're not, I would say either 2 things happened. Either the NIL deal they were offered by Ole Miss was fool's gold. I guess you could say 3 things. It was either fool's gold, either Tyler Barron committed to Ole Miss, not expecting who's the 5-star that they got. I forget his name, but that didn't expect that 5-star defensive end edge player to come over from Texas A&M, and then thought, okay, go somewhere else because I'm probably not going to have a place here, or Louisville offered more money. You take your pick of which one you believe. That is a big loss, though, in the transfer portal for Ole Miss. So, good pickup for Louisville, though. Good pickup for a solid defense, actually, in Louisville last year. They just got to figure out some stuff on offense, get the passing game going a little bit more. Jeff Brom, I love what he's doing at Louisville right now. I don't know how long he's going to stay at Louisville, but he is a absolute star as a head coach. One of the underrated guys that I think is quite in line that, another guy to keep an eye on. If Billy Napier goes through this gauntlet and gets eaten alive by that SEC schedule, which can you blame them? That last 5 games are going to be just a crucible, quite frankly. It is obscene what the SEC schedule makers did to Florida this year towards the end of the season. But Billy Napier goes through this and ends up being fired, which I kind of expect to happen this year. Lane Kiffin and Jeff Brom are probably going to be right at the top of that list as far as who Florida's going to be looking for next. So that's another thing to keep an eye on going into the next offseason. I love what Jeff Brom is doing over there at Louisville right now, though. So enjoy him while you got him. I don't think you're going to have him long, Cardinal fans. A little NBA headline here. The Raptors are trading Pascal Siakam to the Pacers for 2 first-round picks. So, not a whole lot of NBA headlines. We'll get into more of that in the offseason because, boy, there's not going to be a whole lot else to talk about. But for right now, let's just talk about this for a second here, man. The Pacers now are going to have Tyrese Halliburton, already have Miles Turner, a solid rotation as well outside of those two. And then you're adding in Pascal Siakam, who's just a really good all-around player, a good defender, a really long-rangey guy. And defense has not been the strong suit of the Indiana Pacers, to say the least, over the course of the season. They have been a prolific overhitting machine. The only reason they stopped hitting overs is because the sports book started putting their over-unders at like 250 points every time they went out there. Yeah, I like this pickup for the Indiana Pacers. I think it's going to help them down the stretch. Do I think it gets them out of the East? Probably not. It's just kind of how the NBA is. I think Tyrese Halliburton is good enough to be a number 1 option on a championship team for sure, but I don't know. We'll see. I think Pascal Siakam, I think this is a good role he's stepping into. I don't think he's necessarily suited to be that number 1 on a championship contender. You saw that with the Toronto Raptors over the last couple of years, but as a number 2, number 3 option, the guy you can ask to do a little bit of dirty work on the defensive end, I think this definitely makes the Pacers a lot better as a basketball team. I think it makes them a lot more serious, and I think they're really like some depth, maybe a couple pieces away from really making a championship run. So we'll see. They're definitely in dark horse status right now to come out of the East in my mind, and really just we've seen better parity in the NBA than we've seen in quite some time. We've seen a lot of ascendant young teams too. OKC is on fire. The Minnesota Timberwolves are on fire. Hell, the Orlando Magic have been playing pretty well for stretches this year. They kind of cooled off as the season has gone on, but we got a lot of young teams that are just kind of coming out of nowhere that I think it's good for the NBA. I think it's good for the NBA, and especially if we can get guys like Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Victor Wembanyama start, playing out of their minds, start, garnering a little bit more of that mainstream attention. I think the league's going to be in a good spot going forward. I think they really are. Getting back to the football of it all, and we're going back to the NFL. Mike McCarthy will be returning for his final year of his contract with the Cowboys. That announced yesterday at this point. I was pretty up in the air 50-50 as to whether or not they would bring Mike McCarthy back just because of the available head coaching options. But this is kind of Jerry's MO. He doesn't really make a whole lot of rash decisions. Unless you're like Wade Phillips, where you just absolutely got eviscerated in your first 2 years as head coach, just did not do well in Dallas as the head coach. Usually he doesn't make quick decisions in firing. Hell, he kept Jason Garrett around, his average ass around for damn near 10 years. A little bit different situation there because Jason Garrett was a former quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, backup quarterback there for a while, had a really good relationship with Jerry Jones. But Jerry Jones doesn't move fast on these sorts of things usually, especially going off back-to-back 12-5 seasons. Disappointment in the playoffs for sure, but back-to-back 12-5 seasons got the boys playing really well. The offense reached new heights this year. Maybe going to be looking for a new defensive coordinator, but we'll see. I understand running it back for another year. Doesn't change the fact that Washington fans, Philadelphia fans, and New York fans, all fans in the division, are all praising this. They're all very happy that Mike McCarthy is back for sure this upcoming year. But that doesn't change the fact that I think it's I'm pretty 50-50 on the decision, quite frankly. I think it's good to have them back just from a regular season perspective. Like, they're going to win, quite frankly. As long as you have Dak Prescott, you're probably going to win some games. But at the end of the day, how far are you going to get? you're probably going to have to, really need to invest on an off-ball linebacker because I think that's a real spot where the Green Bay Packers killed him. Getting Trevon Diggs back is going to be huge. Hopefully he looks good coming off of that ACL injury this past year. Really, this defense changed whenever Trevon Diggs went out. You got some good play from Deron Bland in there. He's certainly going to be a factor as well. And you already got Stephon Gilmore in there as well. I don't know if this is a contract year for him or not, but that's good depth that you got on the outside. Really, the only spot that you're hurting right now is that off-ball linebacker. You can't, if there's one thing that you've seen in the last couple of years, you simply can't rely on Leighton Vander Esch to stay healthy for an entire season. It's just not going to happen. I think they need to, and this is kind of a changing tide, I think. I think people are starting to realize that off-ball linebacker is a lot more valuable than what teams have given it credit for. Really, the Cowboys and the Eagles, their defensive woes towards the end of the season kind of came down to the same thing. It's that off-ball linebacker. Eagles didn't spend any money. They let, all their best linebackers, especially TJ Edwards, they let their best linebackers walk this offseason, didn't give them any money, and it didn't work out for them. The Cowboys just don't have anybody. This just Leighton Vander Esch holding it together, and then when he's out, you've got nobody for the Dallas Cowboys, quite frankly. I think we're starting to see, and really, just look at the Ravens. They brought in Roquan Smith. They paid him a ton of money. Like $20 million a year, which is was unheard of at the time for a middle linebacker. And they've had arguably the best defense in all of football since he came over there from the Chicago Bears. So I think having a guy that is the brain in the middle that can make checks for the entire defense, that can get everybody in the right spot, like a quarterback of the defense pretty much. I think we're getting back around to that, like the Ray Lewises of the world are starting to be a little bit more valued in the mainstream eye. I think that's, I think you're going to be seeing that contractually here over the next couple of years. Like, guys like Fred Warner, obviously guys like Roquan Smith are going to be valued at a premium to where they once were not. I think definitely Dallas and the Eagles specifically are going to have to be looking at that going forward, but we'll see how it works out for them in the coming year there in Dallas. What is this? What is this? Oh, it's just promo. I thought news was breaking. I'm stupid. What else we got? Damn it. I just absolutely I got headlines on my phone, Caleb. Come on, dude. All right, we got two more here. Still no official word about Nick Sirianni as far as I'm concerned. I have no idea yet. But Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman have reportedly been reaching out around the league about potential coordinators to hire. That is per Diana Rossini. That likely indicates he is safe for another year, though the sides will meet soon. I think probably either today or tomorrow they're going to meet. So, yeah. To explain that, they'd be reaching out about possible head coaching candidates if they were trying to get rid of Nick Sirianni. Instead, they're reaching out about coordinators. Means they're rational. They're much more rational than their fans, thank God. Otherwise, they'd be a god awful franchise. So they're going to be sticking with Nick Sirianni for at least another year. I will say this though: if Nick Sirianni doesn't nail these hires, the offensive coordinator hire and the defensive coordinator hire this time, he's probably going to be out on his ass this next offseason. They fired Doug Peterson, I believe, 2 years after he won the Super Bowl. They could do the exact same thing to Nick Sirianni after going to the Super Bowl. I mark my words right now. If it's another bad end of the season, which they did still finish 11-6. There's got to be credit where it's given. Give credit where it's due there. But if they have another bad season down the stretch and they have another disappointing loss in the playoffs in 2024. I don't think he's going to have another go around, quite frankly. I think they're going to be kicking Nick Sirianni to the curb. We're going to have to wait and see on that, but looks like it would appear from afar that Nick Sirianni is safe with the Philadelphia Eagles, which again, I think is the rational decision. Give him another year to, do another clean slate with the offensive defensive coordinator. Really, they lost out on their number one defensive coordinator hire. I think they were expecting to hire Vic Fangio last offseason. Miami Dolphins got him, won the bidding war for him, and they ended up going with Sean Desai, and we all saw how that worked out. He wasn't even the defensive coordinator really by the end of the season. Brian Johnson, I think that kind of proves that you're going to need to go outside of the organization for your next offensive coordinator hire. Love him, former Mississippi State guy. I think he coached at Mississippi State for a while. I don't know if he was a player at Mississippi State or not, but, a guy that was under Dan Mullen for a little bit. Love him. Hope the best for him. He only been in the NFL for 3 years though. He got his offensive coordinator position in his third year. I think it was just probably a little bit too soon for him to be thrust into that spot. So back to being a quarterback coach, probably somewhere else. Hope the best for him though. Hope the best for him. Just a little bit too soon on that opportunity, it looks like. But we'll have to wait and see. Probably sticking with Nick Sirianni there with the Eagles. And just a quick update. I'm really only going to do updates on the head coaching stuff when we get to finalists and, actual hiring. But Bill Belichick, we'll be following this name a little bit as far as where he is going to end up. Bill Belichick and the Falcons are going to go for a second interview this weekend. That is according to Ian Rappaport, I believe, that they're going to be meeting. He's going to be meeting with the brass in person, and also a one-on-one interview with Arthur Blank, which would indicate they are very far along in possible hiring process here. Also, Jim Harbaugh did interview with the Atlanta Falcons this week after interviewing with the Chargers as well. So that's another guy that he kind of has his pick of the litter, quite frankly. And, unless the Atlanta Falcons decided they're going to zero in on Bill Belichick, which it seems like they might be doing right now, Jim Harbaugh probably pretty much has his pick of wherever he wants to go. I would imagine that situation with the Chargers with Justin Herbert being there, already in place, already having a quarterback, already having, solid wide receivers in place. I think that would be a little bit more of an attractive situation for him going forward. Also, I could see the Washington situation. It's not like, Washington is absolutely bereft of talent. Next season, they're probably not going to be very good. But look at what they've got there. They hired a rising star in Adam Peters as their GM there. When Adam Peters was part of that rebuild in San Francisco, that took them from number 2 overall pick to perennial Super Bowl contender. Now with the Washington football team, whatever they are, the commies, whatever the hell they happen to be. They're probably going to change their name at some point too. It seems like that's likely here in the future. Disgusting. I apologize for that. But yeah, they got him in place. They got all the cap space in the world in the coming years. They haven't really paid anybody, and they traded away their largest possible payable guys. And you've got a really high draft pick this year, and a lot of draft picks to work with, quite frankly. So, if you're looking to build a team in your image from scratch, build it from the ground up, Washington wouldn't be a terrible place to go as well. Looks like Ben Johnson might be the guy there, though. Ben Johnson, another guy that probably has his pick of the litter. He can probably go wherever he wants. In fact, I would say Ben Johnson is probably the number one guy on the market right now. If you're just talking like pure like coaching prospects, he was a hot name last offseason. He's an even hotter name this offseason. I think he probably, even if he decided to go to the Chargers, I think it'd be a tough decision between Ben Johnson and Jim Harbaugh. If for no other reason than Ben Johnson's going to command a little bit less money than Jim Harbaugh, and we know the Spanos family is just cheap as all hell over there. So, I don't know. That's going to be interesting to watch. I'm not going to follow in depth the coaching search because there's just so many names flying around right now, and I'm going to waste time if I start talking about who's interviewing where. Needless to say, all the names that you're thinking of right now are interviewing at various places like Dan Quinn, Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick. I haven't gotten anything for Pete Carroll right now, or Mike Vrabel for that matter, which is kind of strange. I thought there would be a lot heavier market for Mike Vrabel, quite frankly. But yeah, a lot of those names, like coordinators that have been knocking at the door for a while, are starting to interview at places. I don't know. We'll leave that there for now. I'll have updates whenever the updates present themselves. And of course, we are 44 minutes into this thing, and I have not even talked about the games. So, without further ado, let's talk about those games, shall we? Let me get a quick drink of the Gatorade here that I have at my side. Delicious. That's good stuff right there. Coats the throat. Keeps me from losing my voice and whatnot. All right, so got 4 games in the divisional round. We'll go chronological order here, starting off with the Saturday 4:30 game. Texans at the Ravens. The line is 9.5 across the board in favor of the Ravens. Over under 43.5. And I don't have a whole lot of picks this week, folks. I mean, there's only 4 games, and I think the lines are just scary enough to where I'm staying away from pretty much all of them. I could see blowouts or covers in any one of these games this week. So I'm going to pick the games just for the purposes of this segment. But as far as the actual gambling picks go, I've got 2 picks for you this week, and they're both over-unders, both overs, actually. My first pick actually comes in this game, by the way, 43.5. I think the Ravens are going to score a lot of points on this Texans defense, and I think that C.J. Stroud is going to get a couple, just enough to cover that 43.5. I think that's a fairly low number. I don't think the Ravens are going to shut down the Texans offense that badly in this one, as long as C.J. Stroud is out there. So yeah, I love that 43.5. I'm picking that one. That's an official pick for this week. As far as the game itself goes, big spread for the Texans here. So like we talked about last week, we ask ourselves the question, obviously going to pick the Ravens on the money line here, pick them to win. What would it take for the Texans to pull off the upset here? Obviously, first and foremost, you think of the Baltimore Ravens, you think of a dynamic running game that sets up pretty much everything. So if you limit the running game, you have a chance. Even then, though, Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham Jr., Rashad Bateman. You got Mark Andrews coming back into the fold. He was a full participant in practice yesterday. Looks like he is well on his way to starting on Saturday. You have weapons galore on the outside, and Lamar Jackson, who has been a very good pocket passer this year. I mean, MVP passer this year, quite frankly. Obviously, he's going to be the MVP. No one's making no bones about that one. That was pretty much clear at the end of the season there. So even if you stop the run, you're going to have your hands full in the passing game. You just got to hope that Derek Stingley, all the guys that are out there make a couple plays. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to throw you as many gifts that Joe Flacco did in the last round, but you got to make do with what you got, quite frankly, and that's pretty much the only way you do it. I think Texans on the offensive side, if you want to pull off an upset, obviously, you got to do something that really only the Rams have done throughout this year, and that is gash them for big plays. I mean, that's pretty much all you can hope for. And I mean, C.J. Stroud, he has shown an ability to beat teams single-handedly at times this year, and he has gotten better every single week of the year to a point where last week you saw him just go absolutely nuclear versus the Cleveland Browns, which nuclear might be a little bit strong, but still 16 of 21 and a damn near perfect passer rating. He was unconscious throughout the course of that game. He can beat you all by yourself. And that's the main thing that I think for the Texans on offense. You're going to have C.J. Stroud go for like 303 touchdowns, no turnovers in this game if you want to have a chance against the Baltimore Ravens, because I think even if you stop the run, I think Lamar Jackson has shown time and again that he can gash you in the deep passing game. I think that is something where if the Texans want to win, they're going to have to make this a shootout, because I think the Ravens defense likes to play from in front. I mean, I think most teams like to play from in front, quite frankly, but it's a defense that can hold you down and an offense that can gash you quickly. So you're going to have to really negate what the defense does, quite frankly, if you want to win this game for the Texans. Obviously, I think for the Ravens, pretty much the inverse of what I just said. If you can get the running game going with Lamar Jackson, with the stable of backs they have back there, I don't think the Texans have a prayer, quite frankly. That's the main thing. You get after C.J. Stroud in the passing game. The running game, the Texans aren't a very good running team, and the Ravens are a very good running defense. So I think you're going to have pretty much no problem whatsoever stopping the running game for the Texans. You got to get after the passer and C.J. Stroud. If you put pressure on C.J. Stroud, you're going to at least have a chance. And C.J. Stroud has handled the pressure, better than most quarterbacks this year. He's already a top 10 quarterback in my mind. But you get pressure on him, you have a chance to slow down the Texans defense, the Texans offense. All you need is a couple defensive stops and a couple scoring drives for the Ravens, and you're going to be in double digits, sitting pretty to cover the spread. So obviously, with that in mind, I'm picking the Ravens. Duh. As far as the money line goes, As far as the spread goes, I think I'm also picking the Ravens, honestly. I think the Ravens are just top to bottom a better team. And I'm not taking this as an official bet because obviously the CJ Stroud of it all scares the hell out of me with that 9.5 points. I think he could very easily keep it close if he just goes out of his mind like he did last week versus the Cleveland Browns. But playing on the road in the winter conditions, it's a hostile playoff road environment. M&T Bank Stadium is no joke. It is one of the best stadiums in all of the NFL. It is a fantastic spot. I've been there countless times as a child. It is a fantastic spot, especially in playoff football. Hell, really in hyped up regular season games is one of the loudest places in the entire league. In playoffs, it just goes to a different level, man. So I think that hostile environment, I don't think it's going to phase CJ Stroud much, but it's going to disrupt the team just enough. And that Ravens team is just so overpowering. I think they win. I think they cover, and I think they find themselves in the AFC Championship game. Again, not betting on that, but my pick for the purposes of this segment would be Ravens minus 9.5. All right, let's move on to the night game on Saturday. Packers at 49ers. Another one that is 9.5 across the board for the 49ers. Over under 50.5. I think I put that out there the other day, but if I didn't, 50.5. That's my other over. I'm getting both of my picks out of the way here on Saturday. So over 50.5. I think the 49ers are going to score at will on that Packers defense, and I think the Packers offense is going to score just enough to cover that 50.5, quite frankly. So, yeah, about the actual game itself, though, that's my two picks, by the way, over 43.5 in Texans versus Ravens, and over 50.5 in Packers versus 49ers. We'll hit that again on the way out the door, just so you know where I'm standing. But as far as the actual game itself, again, we're going to approach it the same way we approached the Texans versus the Ravens. Obviously, the 49ers are big-time favorites. What will the Packers have to do in order to pull off the upset here? First and foremost, I have no faith whatsoever in the Packers defense to stop the 49ers offense. None whatsoever. So you could say stop Christian McCaffrey. Duh. I think that's what everyone tries to do. So long as they have Trent Williams in there, and so long as they have Deebo Samuel, Packers don't have a prayer of holding the 49ers under 30 points, quite frankly. That's just flat out what I expect. I expect the 49ers to score at least 30 in this game. So I think for the Packers, a lot like the Texans on the other side, I think you've got to make this a shootout. And at times the 49ers have been susceptible in the secondary. I mean, you saw against the Ravens earlier in the season. Obviously, a few fluky turnovers from Brock Purdy there, which I think that's if you're the Packers, that's pretty much the only way you follow the Ravens playbook there, the Ravens blueprint, and you just try to get as many fluky turnovers off of Brock Purdy as you possibly can, because the running game is going to absolutely grind you into dust when it's all said and done. And then on the other side, Jordan Love is going to have to play every bit as spectacularly as he did in the previous game. Those young receivers got a bit more of a challenge going up against this 49ers defense than he did against that hapless Cowboys defense and how they played this past week. I don't think you're going to be putting up 48 points. I'll put it to you that way. But you're going to have to probably score in the 30s to win this game. I think Jordan Love is going to have to play well. I think against all odds, and I think it really kind of starts here. A lot of what the Packers did against the Cowboys kind of dovetailed off of the success they had in the running game. Aaron Jones went out of his mind, out of his gourd against the Cowboys. 3 touchdowns, 118 yards on the ground. 130 total yards of offense. He went crazy in this game. So against all odds, you're going to be running into the teeth of the very strength of the 49ers defense, that running defense. You're going to have to find a way to get push up the middle, find ways to get Aaron Jones running free, because I don't think if you're one-dimensional against this 49ers defense and you're allowing Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Chase Young, all of the rushers that they've got, the stable of rushers that the 49ers have, I think if you let them tee off against your quarterback, I don't think you have much of a chance. So it starts with Aaron Jones having success running the ball. And then working off of that, Jordan Love has to hit those deep shots down the field that you saw him hitting versus the Dallas Cowboys, because Packers are going to need to score in this game. They're absolutely going to need to score, and without that, they don't have much of a chance. With that said, I don't know. I just have a feeling the Packers are going to keep this close. So obviously I'm picking the 49ers to win. I think the Packers cover this. I think the Packers cover this, and it's kind of indicative of why I picked the over 50.5, because I do think the Packers are going to find ways to score in this game, whether it be off of turnovers, getting short fields, or whether Jordan Love and Aaron Jones and the whole crew are just playing that well. I have a feeling that Jordan Love has reached that point to where he can overcome some of what the 49ers are going to be throwing at him in this game. See, I don't think they'll win, but I think they're going to make a game of this. I like him to cover that 9.5. Again, not picking it because I'm horrified. I could see the 49ers winning by 30, or I could see the Packers coming in and making it a close game, possibly even winning it. I'm very much up in the air on that, but just got a feeling that the Packers are going to keep this close. So for the purposes of this segment, 49ers win, Packers cover. Excuse me. All right, so we're moving on to the Sunday games here. My goodness, I'm gassy today. Buccaneers at the Lions first and foremost. This is where we're starting to get a little bit of dissension as far as the lines are concerned. It's 6.5 in most places in favor of the Lions. You can get a 7 at DraftKings right now. They're the only ones holding firm at 7, it looks like. So if you're looking to bet the Buccaneers, DraftKings is probably the place for you. Over under. For some reason it says, I'm not even sure this is right because they're a full 1.5 below everyone else, but pretty much everyone is at 48.5, and this says DraftKings is at 47, which makes me think DraftKings is not actually at 47. They just haven't updated their numbers here on the Action Network. But 48.5 is what you're looking at the over-under, which is kind of, indicative of both how Vegas feels about the Lions offense and how they feel about the Lions defense as well, in conjunction with how well the Buccaneers offense has been playing, because they did just hang 30 on Philly, which Philly's not been playing well, but hanging 30 on them is no mean feat. That's a really good performance there this past week, and Baker Mayfield played probably the best game of his entire career versus the Philadelphia Eagles this past week. So no picks for this one. No official picks, so let's just get into the game. I think keys for both of these teams. We'll start with the Buccaneers offense versus the Lions defense. Look, we know the Buccaneers can't run worth a damn. Absolutely no way they can run. I mean, they're a terrible running team, and the Lions are a really good running defense. So Baker Mayfield is going to have to, well, first and foremost, you got to protect Baker Mayfield. You cannot let him get all sorts of pressure on him, because if Aiden Hutchinson is coming in there and cleaning Baker Mayfield's clock, you've seen time and time again in the past with Baker Mayfield, that is a recipe for him to make some boneheaded decisions, throw some bad passes, and lead to some turnovers that way. So you got to keep Baker Mayfield clean. And if you can keep Baker Mayfield clean, Baker Mayfield has to hit guys like Mike Evans down the field, keep the ball moving, obviously, but get big, deep shots, because I do think the secondary for the Lions can be had. If you can stop the pass rush, the secondary for the Lions can be had. It's going to be interesting to see because I have no faith in the Buccaneers to run the ball, quite frankly, which means they're probably going to be a one-dimensional team in this game. A lot of passing I would expect in this one. Could they maybe possibly find a way to get Rachaad White involved out of the backfield? He's been very, very good at that this year as a pass-catching back. So maybe you kind of, approximate some running game by getting Rachaad White the ball in, short passing situations that, maybe slows down the pass rush a little bit. That could help you out. But by and large, it's going to be probably Aiden Hutchinson teeing off on the quarterback at any opportunity he gets. So you're going to have to probably chip Aiden Hutchinson every single time that you can, just to keep him off the quarterback. If you can stop Aiden Hutchinson, there's not really a whole lot of other guys in the Detroit defense that can really affect what you're doing, quite frankly, as far as the pass rush is concerned. So yeah, Baker Mayfield gonna have to hit some shots down the field to Mike Evans and co. As far as the Lions defense here, I mean, again, I think no matter what, they're going to stop the run, because the Buccaneers aren't very good at running the football. And the ball is going to be in Baker Mayfield's hands a lot. you need to get turnovers off of Baker Mayfield. That is the main thing, and he's done it in the past. He's had some inconsistent play in the past. You're going to need guys like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Kirby Joseph to stop diving at people's knees and maybe pick off some balls. Really, all those sorts of things. You're going to need turnovers. Obviously, you win the turnover battle, you're winning most times, but especially in this one, you're going to need turnovers off of Baker Mayfield in order to pull away in this one. So that's my key for them. Get turnovers off of Baker Mayfield. And then on the other side, flipping things around, Lions offense versus Buccaneers defense. I think you're going to be going strength on strength here with the Buccaneers defensive line, particularly Vita Vea in the middle, being a one-man wrecking crew in the running game. Still one of the best run defenders in all of football with just how massive and athletic he is against the interior of that Lions offensive line, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think the game is going to be either a blowout or close based on what happens here. Like, if the Lions are able to get push off the ball and you're getting 5-6 yards a carry out of Montgomery and Gibbs, cancel Christmas. I mean, the Buccaneers are going to lose by like 20 probably in all likelihood, because the Lions, once you get the run game going, it's like a lot of Shanahan-led offenses or Shanahan-style offenses. You get the run game going, then you can't really factor in anything else that happens. You get big, deep shots down the field. Next thing you know, Sam Laporta's running wide open for 30 yards, scores. You're getting Amon-Ra St. Brown with like 13 receptions for 140 yards, and it's game over at that point. You have no chance in hell of winning after that. So I do think the game is going to be either won or lost by the Buccaneers based on whether or not they can clog up the middle there and hold down Montgomery and Gibbs to an average stat line, like a 4 yards per carry or less sort of thing. If they can do that, I think the key for the Buccaneers is getting pressure on Jared Goff more than anything. Because if you can get pressure on Jared Goff, he has shown in the past that he will throw some gifts to your defense. Make no mistake about it. If he stays clean, he'll pick you apart. That's just kind of been his MO his entire career, is if he's clean, he's got one of the prettiest balls in the NFL that he throws. And he is accurate as all hell. That's the reason why he was the number 1 overall pick back in the day out of Cal, is because he could throw such a pretty ball when he wasn't under pressure. You have to get to Jared Goff. You have to make him make dumb decisions, which he has done. I mean, we saw really in that playoff game that they just won versus the Rams. I don't know who he was in the grasp of, but he was in the grasp of a defensive lineman, and just inexplicably, Jared Goff just throws a chest pass backwards. No reason whatsoever. Could have just taken the sack at that point like it was actually going to happen. Instead, throws it backwards for another like 5-yard loss on top of that. That's the kind of stuff that Jared Goff does whenever he is under pressure. So you get pressure in Jared Goff's face. I think that is a recipe for success. Obviously, after stopping the run, because that is the only way. That's the only way that you're going to get those opportunities. Because otherwise, if you can't stop the run, you're going to have to devote more resources to stopping the run. And at that point, it's just going to be a field day for that passing game. Jared Goff's going to be clean the whole time. He's going to be hitting passes down the field, and you're going to lose by 15, 20 points. It's going to be Lions in the NFC Championship game. So that's the key for the Buccaneers in that one. As far as the Lions, like I said, you get the run game going, you win this game by a hefty margin. So with all of that said, I think this is one of the tougher games to pick, quite frankly. I don't know. I could see the Buccaneers keeping this close. I could see the Lions winning by 1 billion points. I think the Lions at home, in that environment, it's going to be rocking. That fan base has been starved for so long. They just had, such a outpouring of emotion this past week, and they're just going to be hungry for more of that. I think that stadium is going to be rocking. I think the Lions feed off of that. I think they win that line of scrimmage battle with Vita Vea and the boys with their offense. I think the Lions win. I think the Lions cover at 6.5. No lean on the over/under. I think I could see it going either way there. I think it's a pretty dead on line, quite frankly. All right, so the final game of the weekend, a tale as old as the 2 quarterbacks in this matchup's career. Chiefs at the Bills. I believe this is Patrick Mahomes' very first road playoff game in his career, which is insane. He just tells you how good he and the Chiefs have been over the course of his starting career, that they are just now going for their first road playoff game, and they still won their division this year. They still went 11-6. Both these teams are 11-6 this year. It's just the Bills had, I believe they won the head-to-head earlier in the season, if I'm not mistaken. But either way, they were the 2 seed. Chiefs coming in. The line right now is -2.5 in favor of the Bills. In most places, it is -3 at PointsBet. -3 at PointsBet at this point. Also -3 at Rivers too as well. So yeah, it's pretty even across the board. Over under is 45.5 in most places, 45 at DraftKings at the moment. And yeah, they're the only one with a 45. Everywhere else is 45.5. I would probably lean the under just based on the strength of both of these defenses. But let's just get into the matchups here real quick. Starting with the Chiefs offense versus the Bills defense. I really think that the formula is fairly similar to what you saw from the previous week. I think leaning into Isaiah Pacheco is going to be crucial in this one. I think having Daquan Jones in the middle there for the Bills, it's good because the linebacking core, if they can get to the second level, the Bills can be had with that linebacking core because they are so bereft of talent back there. They're calling guys up from the practice squad and whatnot. That's kind of, I don't know if the game's going to be won there, but you're going to help yourself a lot if you're the Chiefs in going towards winning this game if you can get Isaiah Pacheco in that running game going. I think really it comes down to whether Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce can beat this Bills secondary linebacking core. I think specifically Travis Kelce on whoever ends up covering him is going to be a mismatch, a nightmare for that Bills defense. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a huge game if the Chiefs are going to come out here and win. And Rashee Rice going up against these corners who are also bereft of talent just based on injuries, getting guys called up from practice squad again. Damar Hamlin's been playing a lot of snaps in these last couple games, which, no disrespect to Damar Hamlin, he's a practice squad guy through and through, quite frankly. He's not a great player. He's just a guy that, if you got a lot of injuries, he's going to be coming in off the bench. That's a pretty good indication that you got a lot of injuries when Damar Hamlin is playing big-time minutes for you, big-time snaps for you over there with the Bills. So if Rashee Rice can come out there and dice up that Bills secondary, and obviously Patrick Mahomes is going to be Patrick Mahomes. We know what we're getting from Patrick Mahomes in this one. I think the Chiefs are going to be in a really good position to win. For the Bills on the other side, I would say getting after Patrick Mahomes is an imperative, but he's been able to escape pressure so well that I'm not even sure that that's going to be a huge thing for you. I think the main thing is... the main thing for the Bills, I would say, is you got to stay locked onto the receivers. I think you got to have really good coverage. Probably, I would say bracket coverage on Rashee Rice more than anything. Like, I think you can kind of live with some of the underneath stuff with Travis Kelce so long as he's not gashing you for like 140 yards or something like that. What you can't have is Rashee Rice getting downfield shots on you. And I think you can cover everyone else one-on-one pretty much. So I think you bracket coverage on Rashee Rice, and then you let the chips fall where they may. Then from that point, if you can kind of limit Isaiah Pacheco in that running game to an average stat line, like 4 yards per carry or something like that, I think the Bills are going to be able to keep this thing, close. Or not close necessarily, but they're going to keep the Chiefs offense down. And it's not like the Chiefs were just running all over the Miami defense either. I mean, obviously, inclement weather conditions and all that sort of stuff. It was minus 27 degrees last week in Kansas City, so it's not going to be quite that cold. It's still going to be very cold, but not quite that cold. It's going to be a little bit different as far as stopping the Chiefs, but I think with, bracket coverage on Rashee Rice, holding the Chiefs to a modest running game, I think you've put yourself in position to keep the Chiefs under 20 points. And then on the other side of the ball, Chiefs defense versus the Bills offense, I think main thing is, Josh Allen he's gonna throw you some opportunities. I think that's where you got to look at this thing very closely. Is get Josh Allen in some situations where obviously you get pressure on him with Karlaftis and Chris Jones. Get him off his spot. Get him in positions where he's going to start throwing those fuck it balls, and you have to capitalize. You absolutely have to capitalize on it. Multiple interceptions are probably going to be needed if the Chiefs want to win this thing. Because I think if the Chiefs win this game, it's going to be on the back of the defense, the same way they did against the Miami Dolphins the last week. I think that is where the game is going to be won and lost for them, is on the defensive side of the ball. Yep, nothing really to report there. So, yeah. Okay, yeah. I was just making sure no news had broken at all. But, yeah, where was I? The Chiefs defensively, yeah. I mean, a lot like a souped up Joe Flacco with much better running ability and much better accuracy. That is what Josh Allen is. And in a way that he's going to throw you some. He is absolutely going to throw you some gifts. He's going to burn you down the field a couple times a game. That is, I mean, something you simply can't avoid with Josh Allen. But one, you're going to have to tackle much better than what the Eagles did this past week, or anyone else for that matter did this past week, or really the Steelers did for that matter. You're going to have to be sure tacklers, and you're going to have to, take advantage of the gifts that Josh Allen throws you throughout this game. I think that they match up well defensively versus this Bills power running game. I think running directly at Chris Jones is not a winning proposition in most cases, and I think the linebacking core with Willie Gay and Nick Bolton is exceptional, one of the best in the entire league, quite frankly. I like the Chiefs matchup against the Bills running game. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring kind of physical contest between the Chiefs and the Bills, much different than what we've seen in the past between these teams with a duel of quarterbacks between Mahomes and Josh Allen. I think both these defenses are going to have success. I think the under hits at 45.5. As far as who wins this game, I have a tough time picking against the Chiefs, but I just think the Bills are a better team right now. They're playing better overall. So I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be high scoring at all. But I think the Bills get the win and they cover at 2.5 in this one. So there you have it. If all goes according to plan, all of the favorites will win. So good. I've really gone out on the limb with some of these picks. I'm feeling good about all these. I picked every single favorite to win, so that won't blow up in my face whatsoever. With that said, though, there you have it. One more time on the way out the door, my two picks are the over of 50.5 for the Packers versus 49ers and the over of 43.5 for the Texans at the Ravens. With that, though, that is all for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. There, a brisk hour and 11 minutes in. We got it, folks. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed, subscribe wherever you listen to this, be it Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon. Just go ahead, hit subscribe, share it with somebody to help us grow this thing. That would be much appreciated. If you want to follow me on Twitter, the link will be down in the description, so you can do that. If you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM on Twitter or hit up the email, which is unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Also will be down in the description. Outside of that, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I am talking about. One thing I learned this week, life expectancy globally really didn't change for tens of thousands of years until the 20th century for various reasons. I mean, obviously, like vaccines, cleanliness, one of the biggest ones. People started washing their hands and showering a lot more, and, life expectancy increased from there. Nutrition, availability of resources, a lot of different factors came together, but in the 20th century is really the only time that life expectancy has skyrocketed. It stayed kind of flat for tens of thousands of years of human history up until that point. So, hope you learned something today. Either way, enjoy the football this weekend. I will see y'all on the morrow. And by on the morrow, I mean Tuesday. Thank you.